Hi everyone, today's November 17th, 2018, and this is a Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm Deck Tech.
And the Kaiba Cup has finally started this week. A bunch of things are going on. We've got Inglorious Bastion here as well. A bunch of meta shifts as well. Card Trader has some new things. Deck Tech is back in the spotlight. King of Games.
That's right, yeah. I made it to King of Games. As we mentioned last week and the week before, I finally found a deck and some time to play. And I got there with the Blue Eyes deck that I've been running for the past couple weeks. I got there on Monday night, like right before I went to sleep. Unfortunately, so I had Monday off, which is why I was able to play on Sunday and Monday, but then whenever in my job you have a day off, that means you're going to have to pay for it later. So the rest of the week was really slammed. So I haven't really been able to play much KC Cup. I basically have just been making sure that I'm hitting those 3 games per day to get the rewards, and then not doing much after that. So I'm at around level 13. I don't remember, but I think that's around where I am. Blue Eyes is still running it for that. It's doing fine. It's not really a lot of meta decks at that point in the ladder, except for mirror matches. Kind of seems to be the one meta deck that I face a good amount. And so I'm doing okay, but like I said, not playing a ton of games, so I haven't made a lot of progress in that front. Where I did get progress is based on playing to get King of Games and those couple games of KC Cup so far. I've gotten to 100 PvP wins for the first time in a bit, and I'm definitely going to get the 121 as well. It's been a long time since I've gotten probably either of those. And I'm also up to the, whatever it is, 10k gem limit. So I've kind of stocked up on all my resources. I'm getting tickets. I'm playing the game again, and I'm coming up on a vacation. I'm going to be out of the country, but if they have like Wi-Fi or whatever in our hotel room, which I assume they probably will, then I'll likely be able to play a bit as well over there. So we'll see how that goes, and if I can kind of compete in the KC Cup, or if I'm going to have to mostly sit this one out.
You have to put up the Mexican flag as your place of origin.
Yeah, I wonder if they don't care, right? I picked my USA when we started the event, so I don't think it matters where I'm pinging from or whatever. Anyway,
that'll be cool if you change your settings to Spanish just for that week.
just to really make sure that I'm practicing on my way there. I'll do that in the airport. How about you? What are you up to this week?
Yeah, so same deal where I haven't played much, but in the ranked ladder, I got to the King of Games promotion match Saturday or Sunday last week with Vampires, and then I lost, and then I went back to Legend 2, and I switched over to Noble Knights. Wait, I don't think I ever dropped. I did drop down to Legend 2, and then I got back to the promotion match with Noble Knights. And then I lost again, so I'm back to Legend 2 again, so doing my usual thing where I struggle. And I just tried to do I think the Vampires I felt didn't feel too good because of the new decks, the Dragoonity decks in particular. I think that really changed things. So I switched back to the Noble Knights again, and I might go back to Vampires, I don't know. So I'm just indecisive about the 2 decks I have. In the Kaiba Cup, I just hit level 15 this morning, and the decks were pretty weak. As mentioned, to Deck Tech, I faced a raw deck to rank up, so there isn't too much going on, but I expect things to pick up there. And, we should all hit level 20 eventually with any deck that we pick. It's just getting the games in, of course. And, I'm just playing the Noble Knights now. I'm allowing my different characters to play it and level up because I was just using a Shizu for the Sealed Tombs, Vampires, and I'm just going to level up my other characters for the Kaiba Cup at least. The switching to Vampires thing is definitely a ranked move, but for the Kaiba Cup, I think these cards are good enough to get that level 20.
Yeah, that's a good point. I might just switch my decks as well because I'm at level 44 with Arcana, and Arcana, and it feels bad to like play a character after you've already max leveled them. So I might save him for kind of the harder matches towards the end of the climb and switch to something a little bit off meta for, you know, the next couple rounds or whatever.
Yeah. Back then, I got the level 20 with the old Boojins, I remember, way back. And it's basically any deck can do it. Any deck that's organized can get level 20 eventually, so...
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, maybe we'll do that.
So let's talk about this week in esports. Duel Links Meta Weekly 46. This happened Tuesday the 14th. Notable thing about the Duel Links meta is that they've switched back to the 1-deck, 5-card side deck format. And this week we see a shift in the top 32. Masked Heroes took over first place, and Vampires are no longer second, but they're tied for second with Boojins, and Blue Eyes came in third. It seems pretty diverse right now. Masked Heroes are clearly in the lead. There's a tier 2, but then the rest is a bit of a smattering of people trying new things. And that's expected when they dropped the new box last week. So
yeah, there's 1 deck with 2, and then 5 decks with 1 deck representation. So clearly, kind of those 6 decks are all just, you know, like you said, the experimentation. And we're also seeing that in other tournaments and on the ladder and stuff as well. So it's kind of cool. Interesting that the buff to Boojins, there weren't even that many cards added, but it was just such a big buff that it made it kind of just burst back onto the scene. So that's
it was just cool. That one card, I think, the Crane. I don't think the other 2 are even played, so it's crazy, right?
Yeah, the Crane's... I haven't played the deck, so I don't know for sure. But the Crane is definitely... I've played against it a couple times, and that is like the power card. I'm not sure if the other ones make the deck list, but the reason why you're playing it is for the Crane for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it later, but the deck list itself was so crowded. I guess that's... You put in the best one you have.
Yeah.
First place, Black Jesus. This is Sealed Tombs, Masked Heroes. As always, well, this is not as always, because they typically are a balanced deck. This one specifically runs 5 spell cards and 8 traps. So, you know, you see the Masked Heroes, they typically run a lot of Galaxy Cyclones. And I guess he thought that having these really good trap cards, I think these trap cards are much better than the spells, honestly. There's the Sakuretsu Armors, and the Widespread Ruined, and the Paleozoic Canadians, and then the Shinzenghu, which acts as the Hate Trunade. And interesting to see Sealed Tombs with this deck, but of course in the Vampire meta, that's definitely what you want to do, and for Boojins as well, as they're the number 2 deck here. So.
Yeah, I think it was more about trying to play with Sealed Tombs than it was about the deck choices. And then he just kind of, after he didn't have to make specific deck choices, then he just went with whatever cards he thought was best. But it would be very easy to switch this deck to the balanced deck and still make it work. All you have to do is switch 1 trap for 1 spell. So I think that it obviously was a good call. He ended up getting first with it. It would be interesting to see what like the math is, the difference between the Sealed Tombs starts and the balance starts. I know that whenever I see balance, I have to assume that they can OTK me, because if they just play any of their Destiny Hero guys, attack, and then mask change and attack again, if you don't play anything, then you just lose to that start. So it definitely makes me play differently when I see balance, and when I see Sealed Tombs, or I guess when I see Ishizu, you assume that it's Sealed Tombs, but it's like, okay, whatever. I guess it's less obvious how to play around that, because you don't know exactly when they're going to want to use it. But when I'm playing against a balance, I'm like, okay, I have to play, since I've been playing Blue Eyes, I have to play one of my guys on the first turn. And sometimes I don't want to do that if I'm going first, because it feels better to kind of react to what they're doing instead of putting out my guys to get dealt with. So interesting choice there.
Yeah, the Sealed Tombs thing is very interesting, because I got King of Games with Cyber Style, and The sealed tombs thing, I think I do it very unoptimally when to activate it. I often do it when I'm in the lead, and I give them a next turn. So I'm not going to give them the next turn when I'm in the lead on the board or something. But there are certainly other times because you sabotage yourself for a turn and you sabotage your opponent for 2 turns, and you, as a vampire player, you want to banish stuff from your graveyard to get stuff. So I definitely do it unoptimally. I know.
Yeah, it's especially an interesting choice in decks like vampires, where you definitely want to have effects in your graveyard. There's a little bit of that in Masked Heroes as well. So
Yeah.
It's weird when you're hurting yourself as well. Tough choices.
Who Dares wins in second place with the Blue Eyes White Dragon Spellbooks deck. This is definitely a deck we've seen people play on the ladder. Why don't you talk about this deck?
Yeah, sure. So, not a super surprising list. We've seen it, like you said, a couple times. It's essentially you take just the minimum viable product of the Blue Eyes, which is just Trick Up the Sleeve, 1 Cosmo Brain, 5 Blue Eyes, and then 2 to 3 Silver's Cry. I saw it once with just 2, but this guy likes it with 3. It seems better with 3 to me. And then you take the minimum amount of spellbooks as well, which is 3 Blue Boy, 3 Spellbook of Secrets, 2 Books of Fate, which makes sense because you're running fewer, so you don't have as many tools to get rid of the graveyard, and then an Organization and a Spellbook of the Master in this case. Those 2 are probably slightly less important than the others, but... And then that very last card is Treacherous Trap Hole, so there's not a ton of room to mess around with the deck. I think his side deck kind of shows where that room to mess around is a little bit, because the Spellbook of Eternity was one of those cards that I was thinking might be missing. Spellbook of Power as well. He's got the 6th Blue Eyes there. Very interesting to see kind of how the whole deck all together with the sideboard looks, but this main deck looks to be about what we've seen other people doing as well. And the idea of the deck is that Blue Eyes deck is very good, except that it has trouble dealing with a few specific things, including some like back row disruption. And instead of playing Destructotrons or anything like that, Lilas and stuff, this one's just going with the Spellbooks of Fate to help you just clear the way without having to worry about comboing with too much of your stuff. Your Cosmo Brain's a spellcaster, so you can play. You don't have to keep the Blue Boy out. You could just use him as tribute to bring out one of your Blue Eyes. Obviously, that's kind of your power play that you want to be doing. And basically, you're just cycling through your deck. You're running it like a Blue Eyes deck, except that you're using Spellbook of Fate to kind of protect your Blue Eyes guys and clear the way for them as well. It's kind of the game plan there.
Fate, I think, can't be changed. I think when you're doing when they're targeting a face down, I think it can't be changed. I feel like I've just let it go and it just banishes me.
Yeah, I think what it is that it resolves and then it chooses targets or something.
Right.
I seem to recall that's how it works. And so if you try to chain to it, then all you're doing is hurting yourself, because then they could just pick a different target. As a longtime Magic player, that seems weird to me. That doesn't seem like how it should work. But there are also examples, now that I think about it, where it kind of also makes sense in Magic. So, okay, fine.
Mr. Mike, third place, Sealed Tombs Vampires. This is a 20-card list. Notable for having the Regulation of Tribe, which is a card that people definitely experimented with, but never really stuck for a ladder deck. And what it does is you declare a monster. Monsters of the declared type cannot attack. Tribute 1 monster from your side of the field during each of your standby phases. If you do not, this card is destroyed. So you just say warrior, I guess. That's kind of what you want to do. Depending on the deck, I guess. Depending on whichever matchup you're facing, it would be tough against the Blue Eyes, because they have a spellcaster and a dragon. So I guess that depends on the matchup. Yeah,
I think you would probably just pick the dragon, and then you would get rid of the spellcaster with your the kingdom is the plan.
Anything, vamp, could be anything.
Yeah, suck.
for this suck. Suck for 5,000.
Exactly.
Let's play. Trevor won, third place. Endless Trap Hell, Glad Beasts. And this deck, you've got... So, notably, this deck has none of the new Glad Beasts. There were a bunch that were released in the new box, but they specifically have network synergies, I noticed. Like, you can't play the defense guy without the dinosaur, so they kind of go together, and that kind of messes you up. So, these are the old intermediate ones. They have a bunch of them from the Dual Island, which is the Darius, Equesti, and Retiari. And then there's just a lot of trap cards and anti-magic arrows.
Yeah, so I found this list to be pretty weird for a few reasons. It feels a little bit all over the place, but that makes sense in terms of the monsters. The one anti-magic arrows is interesting, I guess. I guess you just kind of so that you can make sure that you're OTKing someone. So that's cool. And then the traps felt really weird to me too, because you're running Endless Trap Hell, but your Mirror Walls and your Paleozoic Canadias don't always end up in the grave. And then you're running Treacherous while you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other traps, so that also seems weird.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have a way to get rid of them. Like, your extra treacherous, I don't think there's any discard or anything in this deck. So all in all, it feels a little odd to me, but I will admit that I haven't played it, so I'm not sure. Previously, I avoided Glad Beast because I only had 2 Lakari, but it looks like maybe that's what people are running now, so maybe I'll pick it back up when I'm switching off of my Blue Eyes for a bit, because it's kind of just like it's a bit of a tempo control deck thing, and there's a lot of cards that can just kind of go into the place of these various control spells and traps.
Right. Yeah, I think Laquari was always the limitation. I think I can play this deck. I just have 2 Canadians, but I think I have everything else.
Yeah, I definitely don't have the Canadians. I think I only have 1. But it also is not the most important card. I mean, I think the reason why it's in there and why it makes sense is not for the return the guy ability so much.
Yeah.
It's for the flip their guy into face down defense so that you can attack into it ability. Right.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Alright. So that is Duel Links Meta 46, and this is... We're going to talk about another Duel Links Meta thing, and that's the end of Clan Wars Season 1. For those unaware, Clan Wars was a seasoned format, so they played every week, I believe. And teams played every week, and now they have the playoffs, and the playoffs ended, so we're going to talk about the end of the playoffs. So basically how it worked was there were 4 top seeds. I guess they were split up into divisions. The 4 top seeds got a round 1 bye. And then 8 teams who also made the playoffs fought in round 1 to face those top 4. So we have 1% defeating Pharaohs, Sun Clan defeating Curry Bandits, Waru Fukuzaki defeating Creeping Death, Animal Place defeating Chillin' with Chila. And then in round 2, 1%, which was the only team to make it to the top, they defeated Faceless Duelists, who were the top seed. Sun Clan was defeated by Meta Breakers, 3 Kings defeated Waru Fukuzaki, and Bricks and Potatoes defeated Animal Plays. And then in the semifinals, the top 4, 1% defeated Meta Breakers, so 1% this round 1 team makes it to the finals, and 3 Kings defeated Bricks and Potatoes. And finally, in the finals, 1% from the bottom defeats 3 Kings 2-0. So they win the whole thing. Yeah, they win the whole thing. So, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm trying to think about other sports that do this. I guess football does this, because I know the top seed, they don't play the first game or whatever. And then there's, these different sports narratives of like, oh, they got like a really long layoff, so they're rusty and things like that. So I don't know how much that applies to esports, but there might be something to it.
Yeah,
He's
I
not
mean,
played the most wins.
yeah, I guess it's not being rusty in this game, but it is like the meta could change because we get new cards literally every week. And so if you're
Right.
not playing, then maybe you miss out on something. Um, I don't think it's as bad in this where you can get like, I don't know, sore or whatever in that meantime. Because these people are still going to be playing, you know. But it is
Right.
interesting to see. I think it's in this case just good to get that free round one and not have to play in the equivalent to the wild card week, like you said in football.
Right.
So this seems like a really cool event. There's a lot of those really top players that we see a lot of playing in it, of course, because these are the people who are the most devoted to playing. So you've got the 3K all day, Select Maple, Shiny Sophion, Andy Sang, Harambe, um, Jason. Just lots of names that we've seen winning a lot of these events are competing here. So you can see some good stuff. There's all of the deck lists here from those last few rounds, and then there's also some gameplay, which is kind of cool too. If you want to check it out, at the bottom there's a couple games that were not streamed.
Right. And then in the finals, which was basically 1% versus Three Kings, the most common decks that we see are vampires. There's the Sealed Tombs vampires, of course, and then the Destiny Draw version as well. Um, Masked Heroes, Balanced Masked Heroes, Restart Spellbooks. There is a Banished Control deck which is using Holy Guard and Endless Trap Hell. And we'll talk more about the Banished Control deck. Um, but it relies on the card DD Assailant, which the DD cards, as you know, kind of banish things. And this version by Kagami is basically a hybrid Amazoness deck as well. So there's, the princesses, the queen, the swordswoman, and one onslaught, and the willpower as well.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It's instead of just going all the way in on Amazonis, you're just running it as part of a whole control package. And that works better these days because you are so restricted in what you can include for the Amazonis that if you rely fully on the Amazonis, then you're going to get burned by it. But there's a couple, like you said, some of them are running Holy Guard, some are running Endless Trap Hell. It seems like an interesting deck, and I've definitely been seeing more of it. Probably because of these top players are running it in tournaments. I've seen a little bit of it on the ladder. I don't think I've faced in the KC Cup yet, but like I said, I haven't played a ton of KC Cup, so that's not super surprising.
And 3K All Day has the other version of this Banished Control deck. This one does not have the Amazonas package, but there are more DD Warriors, so there's 6 DD cards that could they do the same thing where they banish. There's Karibos, and then there's also the Ghost Trick Yuki Onna as well. So this is a more control version, I guess, because you don't have the Amazonas.
Yeah, so very interesting deck. We'll see how it kind of continues to develop. It seems to be one of the newer things in the format, but there are a lot of these players are running it. One thing to note is that they had to submit at least 5 decks in this format, and they could submit up to 10. Yeah, up to 10. And so, you're kind of going deeper into deeper down the pool of decks, I guess. But it helps, I guess, in certain matchups probably more specifically, and so they wanted to have that as an option for them to use in the format. Um, if we if we followed the matches a little more closely, we might be able to see what those were. But there's
Yeah.
definitely some cool innovation going on here to check out.
And some of the other decks we see are the Blue Eyes Arcana version, and then also Fur Hires, which have never died away, I guess. They just keep coming back. So
Yeah, I'm still definitely facing for hires. Um, Blue Eyes, these kind of top level players have a bit of a different version. They seem to be a lot more into Forbidden Chalice. I've seen them running it. We see it here. I saw DK talk about it, I think. Pretty sure their kind of deck write up mentions it. But the lists that I've been playing and seeing on the ladder and seeing people post in like Facebook groups and stuff, pretty much no one is running it outside of kind of this high-level Duel Links meta community. So it's interesting to see that difference depending on where you're looking and probably, I guess, what you're expecting to face. I'm not exactly sure which thing they specifically wanted in there for. It does let you attack into, what's his name, the Decider, which you otherwise can't. So maybe that's why, but there's lots of other things that can also help you out with that specific card. So
Do you want to keep the Destructotron alive? Is there any use for that?
maybe, but I mean, usually you just go ahead and tribute it so you can get a blue eye, so I'm not 100% sure. It's also very interesting that this list is running 3 Bingo Machine Goes. I'm not exactly sure. Really wants to get that Dragon Spirit of the White. So,
Or they're just telling you that they're pay to win.
yeah, just so you know.
Yep, by the way, pay to win.
Yeah.
Alright. So as mentioned, the KC Cup is going on. Unfortunately, we do not have a ton of games to talk about it, and we are kind of in the meme deck area of the tournament, or not even meme deck, it's just beginner level. People playing with their best cards, unorganized decks. But as mentioned in the past, from 15 onwards, the decks get gradually more serious until they kind of merge with the ranked duels, like what you see in Platinum and above, so things like that.
Yeah. And as we were talking about, even like the entirety of the first stage, you can usually kind of just play with whatever deck you like, as long as you're devoted to playing it and you're playing it well and it's a halfway decent deck. And this is why, because everyone is encouraged to play the KC Cup. As we were talking about before, you want to make sure that you play at least 3 games per day and play them out. Don't just concede if you're about to lose. And then so because of that, I think a lot of players who usually don't play a lot of PvP are hopping in for at least 3 games a day. And I think that that's nice. I'm glad that they are doing that to encourage that, except for that it kind of sucks for those players because I'm pretty sure they mostly lose. I'm not exactly sure, but I've faced a lot of people who seem to only have played like PvP a couple of the months. You know, you could see like 2 emblems or something. And then they're usually of the lower emblems, so it's like, okay, this guy doesn't play much PvP, and then often it's kind of like an off-meta deck or, you know, just a newer player or whatever, and usually you end up taking those. So,
I still haven't faced a suicide deck yet. I see those every so often, but I haven't faced one yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. I see those on the ladder every once in a while, though, to like get skills or stuff, and I guess it would make sense in this case too if you want to get that game as fast as possible. Usually not necessary, because most of the meta decks can beat you in 1 or 2 turns anyway, but you know, I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Ubel decks do draw out the games, though. I've faced a few.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't faced any yet in the KC Cup.
Yeah, I switched over to Noble Knights, and whenever they get the Phoenix out, it's pretty much an automatic win because they destroy the equips and then I destroy them each turn. So it's like a never-ending cycle. But yeah, I faced a bunch of those.
Nice.
What else? Have you faced a lot of vampires or no? I don't think I faced any.
Yeah, I haven't really either. I mean, I've pretty much only faced like less than meta decks and mirror matches. And I think it's because the Blue Eyes deck is kind of like the meta deck of choice for people who are a little bit less engaged or maybe not quite as good, because it's just, for the most part, a simpler deck to play. So, you know, that's why I'm playing it.
You know what's interesting? Now that you talk about it, I have faced a lot of Arcanas, but they run the Dark Magician. It's like instead of the Blue Eyes package, they have the Dark Magicians instead. I don't know if you faced those decks.
Yeah, I faced a couple of those. They can be okay. It all kind of works together. It's a synergy thing. It seems fairly strong, but it's clearly not at the same power level as like the top meta decks.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned playing against the Phoenixes, because I just learned that, like, I felt like an idiot because it was obvious there, but I hadn't really been paying attention, and so I just learned how I'm supposed to play against the Phoenix decks like a week or 2 ago. And the answer, by the way, if anyone else wasn't paying attention, is that you are supposed to synchro summon out the level 8 guy. I forget what he's called.
Stardust?
Yeah, Stardust. Because that you sacrifice for the Yubel power, and then your Stardust comes back, Yubel gets destroyed, it happens again, and basically, over whatever it is, 2 turns, their Yubel's gone, and you still have a presence, and then you win that way. I didn't realize that until after I saw someone do it, and I was like, oh, I'm dumb, I should read my cards. But anyway, after I learned that, I haven't faced it like ever. So I haven't faced it since then, so I haven't gotten a chance to use my newfound technology against them.
The Yubel deck is definitely tricky because I played, I'm talking about the Noble Knights, and you get to destroy stuff every so often. And do you destroy the Volcano, or do you destroy the Yubel? Do you destroy the Nephis? Like, which one do you target? It's really tricky. And I often confuse the 2 Yubel cards, like the second and third one. I always confuse what they do. And the third one gets to hit you, and the second one doesn't get to hit you. So it's tricky sometimes not reading the cards and trying to guess which one to pick.
Yeah, I guess the lesson from both of us is to read the cards.
I'm never going to learn, though. But
yeah. You do have 3 minutes to read them on your turn, so I guess one day I'll sit down and actually do that.
I do it when the game's on the line. I go back to the history and I find the card because I'm in trouble and I don't know what the card does, so I just scroll back.
Yeah.
I find the card and read it. Yeah.
True.
All right, Inglorious Bastion. So this is an event that's not a gate event. It's a roaming duelist event that can only be done in GX. So it's one of those. Often you get them when you wake up in the morning and you get 2, and then you have to duel a bunch of people to get him to come back, and then it's kind of a coin flip whether he's a level 30 or a level 40, so it's kind of annoying. He doesn't show up a ton, but there are a bunch of new cards, and then as we are seeing, more copies of cards that were previously restricted to 1 or 2 copies, and we are going to get full play sets of those cards as well, if you farm him enough, or play him enough.
Yeah, I think as we've seen in the past, it's kind of like they give you a light event to do during the KC Cup in case you're not feeling the KC Cup or whatever. So there's something that you can do while you're a little bit less engaged. But the reason why they make it a less engaging event is because if you are into the KC Cup, they don't want to make you feel like you have to choose between these 2 things. And so that's why we kind of have this just occasional duels with the roaming duelist and whatever event.
I did notice that they specifically say event on the Bastion icon this time.
I did too, yeah. Above his head it says it's an event Bastion, in case you didn't notice that he's standing differently and whatever.
Hands out, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. So let's talk about some of the cards. Shuten Doji. 4-star zombie, 1500, 800. Once per turn, you can activate one of these effects. Banish 2 zombies from your graveyard, draw a card, or target one of your banished zombies and place that to the top of your deck. So whether this card has a role, we don't really know, but it definitely fits in with vampires, because vampires often run out of ammunition. That's the retainer and familiar, and then you use them, and then that's it. So this helps you recycle those back. You get the banished card back to the top of your deck. Or you could banish the zombies that are less useful, which are like Samurai's Skull and Gozuki, which once they're dead, they don't really have a use. And then you could draw a card. So this is something that fits. And then it's a 2000 with the field, so it's not as weak. Something that can be considered.
Yeah, I mean, you've played more vampires than I have, so maybe if you think that my initial thought was that this is effect that kind of matches, but it doesn't actually fit in the deck. My experience with the deck was not that they tended to run out of stuff. For the most part, it was kind of like they either won or lost in the first couple turns, and the problem was not whether or not they had the cards. It was kind of like if they were able to get you or not. And then since I was running Blue Eyes, what I would often do is I would clear out their stuff and then like hit them hard once or twice, and then they wouldn't really have any life left to
points.
activate their skills. So
Right, there's like a magic number. If you're at 500, it's over because you can't get anything with 500 life. And if you're at 1,000, you can only get one card, and often you need two because you're activating domain and you want something else. So there's like a sweet spot where you want 1,100 life or 600 life, and that is how you know it's over for a vampire player. So
yeah, and I don't know if this would help, prevent you
right.
from getting to that point or anything like that. So that's my thoughts on it. But
yeah,
why don't we
the
go
decks
to
are just so messy. Like it's possible you could put one in. I don't know. That's just the thing.
Yeah, I mean that's true. There are a lot of search abilities, and sometimes you just in that deck specifically. I mean, and so sometimes when you have that many tools to search stuff out, you just kind of want a utility card like this as an option. And like you said, it's not like a terrible body. It has a decent little body. You can use it as fuel for some of the other stuff in the deck anyway, so it might see play. I wouldn't be super surprised if it snuck in as a one-of that you just sometimes tutor out or whatever.
Yeah, that's all it does, though. Elite Goblin Elite Attack Force, 4-star Fiend, 2200, 1500. If this card attacks, it's changed to defense mode at the end of the battle phase, and its position cannot be changed until the end of your next turn. So this is kind of the classic Goblin Attack Force, except it has 1500 defense, which is not that useful in this meta because most things can hit over it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's because they're elite, but not quite elite enough. This is another one of those cards that feels like kind of from another time where this would have been really good before, when a 4-star 2200 was just like unheard of. But now that we have so many special summons, there's so many ways to get something out faster and bigger than this that this just doesn't really seem to make much sense in any sort of competitive deck.
Red Ogre, 7-star Zombie, 2800, 2100. When this card is normal summoned, you can send any number of cards from your hand to the graveyard. Then target the same number of cards on the field and return those targets to the hand. So this card has a Hey Trunade type ability attached to it, and if you can make it work, you could have some synergy with discarding stuff into the graveyard. We might see something here. Of course, it has to be normal summoned, which is the problem, and you'll need, some ramp to help you, I think.
Yeah, it's a 2 tribute, so that kind of hurts. But sure, you're right. It does feel like the type of card that is just asking to be broken at some point, because it is both clearing the way for a big attack by bouncing their stuff, and also is an engine to kind of do as much as you want with the discard for a certain. There is obviously a cap because you have to target the same amount of cards on the field, but that discard engine, I could see it at some point being broken by one of the many things that takes advantage of either cards being discarded or cards coming back from the graveyard or cards being in the graveyard or any of those things. So that's cool. I don't see any deck that it's in now, but I could see it at some point being kind of part of something.
Right. They were saying how it could have been broken with 3-star Demotion, the old one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
New card. So Bastion is giving us the Chemic Critters. This is the Chemic Critter Oxyox 2-star Beast Gemini with 0 attack and 2100 defense. It's a Gemini monster, so that means it's normal, and then you can Gemini summon it again. The Gemini ability is during your main phase, you can special summon one Gemini monster from your hand. If you do, all Gemini monsters you currently control become that monster's original level until the end of this turn. You can use this effect once per turn. So this is a free special summon from your hand, and that goes well with the next card, which is a 2800 attack monster. So it has that ability, and of course it's a level modulator. So that's kind of useful for synchros right now and future XYZ summons.
Yeah. This guy has 0 attack, 2100 defense though, so it's a little weird. You basically have to play it in defense position and then hope they attack into it for the most part, or you're playing in defense position and then like the next turn you're flip summoning and then like using the effect and then special summoning something that's worth it, and that knowing full well that you might end up losing this guy from it. So it's an interesting card. Again, it's another one that I don't quite see a home for now, but I could see it seeing some play in the future. Having that special summon ability is really important, and as you noted, there's a few reasons why you might want that level modulation as well in this game. So it's a kind of a cool card. I'm glad we're getting it.
Which I have 0 of so far, so yeah.
Womp womp. I'm doing really well. I've just been auto-dueling him, and I already have 2 of this, 3 of the Goblin, 2 of the other guy, 7 Ogre, 2 of the UR. Like, I'm doing well.
That's good.
You need to high roll better.
Yeah, never works. So, the Polychemic Critter Dioxy Ogre is an 8-star Fiend Gemini, 2800 attack, 200 defense. Gemini summon ability. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Gemini monster from your graveyard, target 1 card your opponent controls, and destroy it. So this is a really strong card, which can be special summoned with the previous card. It's got really low defense, though, so that's unfortunate. But it is a control card, which is very good against those very powerful battle phase only traps, which we have a ton of in this game.
Yeah, especially at this point in the game. It's also just 1 card of any type, so you can just kind of clear attackers, or not attackers, clear defenders, and just really good. It doesn't matter if the spell or trap is face up or face down. So if you can cheat this guy out by using the last guy or using the supervise or something, and then you get to special summon it, or you get to do the Gemini summon and start activating this ability. It's a very strong engine once you kind of get it going, or if you can get it going.
Emic Critter Hydron Hawk, 2-star Winged Beast Gemini, 1400, 700. You can discard 1 card, then target 1 Gemini monster in your graveyard, special summon in defense mode. You can use this effect once per turn. So this is a resurrection card for the archetype. And you could discard the Geminis, then use the Dioxy Ogre to banish the Gemini you just discarded and do your stuff.
Yeah, this also works with, like we said, supervise the reanimation effect, or it works with anything that reanimates normal monsters.
Birthright, whatever.
Yeah, your Birthrights, the Red Knight guy, whatever his name is. So, anyway, this particular card's body seems too weak to me, and the effect is a little too slow for it to see play. We have a lot of good Geminis, and I just don't think this guy kind of makes the cut of the list. But like you said, with all those interactions, it might end up being wrong. The deck might look a little bit different, and this might have a place in it.
Yeah, it could just be the budget option, maybe.
That's true, too, yeah.
Emic Critter Carbo Crab, 2-star Aqua, 700, 1400. Its Gemini ability is, during your main phase, you can send 1 Gemini from your deck to the graveyard, then add 1 Gemini from your deck to your hand. You could use this once per turn. So this is definitely the engine. It's kind of like the UA midfielder, I think. You could just kind of pick, not the UA midfielder, like the field, I think. It's kind of like the stadium, where you could tutor out any card you want, and this also feels out. You could discard a card with Supervise and then bring that card back, and then it adds fuel for the Dioxy Ogre, so a very important card, which we're getting our 3rd copy of.
Sweet.
And the last new one is the least exciting one, Polychemic Critter High Dragon, 8-star dragon with 200 attack and 2800 defense. When another Gemini monster is normal summoned, you can make that monster gain 500 attack and defense. If a Gemini monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can destroy one other card you control instead. So this is just a wall. All I gotta say. I mean, this is a card you wouldn't really run, I think.
Yeah, like you said, it's not the most interesting of the bunch, and even like if you consider how many Gemini we have, even like outside of this bunch, then it's even less exciting because there's, like I said, lots of other good ones to maybe think about instead. So it's kind of just a filler, I think, for the event.
Yep. You definitely want your expensive Dark Valkyrias, and then the other guy, Evocator. You're good Gemini boxers.
Yeah, and also even Heavy Knight of Flame is just kind of solid, and there's a lot of special summons. So once you kind of get him activated, then he's very powerful if you can. So usually I see kind of people running one or two of those as well. So there's just a lot of good Geminis.
It's a while since I've played that card. Does the card banish? I forget what it does.
Yeah.
Does it banish the spell? Yeah, okay, yeah. That's good, yeah.
Good stuff.
And there are farming techniques. Deck Tech's been auto-dueling him. You can do it whatever way you want.
Yeah, we're linking here. The Duel Links meta people put together like kind of a write-up of the event, including a couple farming methods. I started out by just auto-dueling him, and then, like I said, I got lucky and I was doing well, so I figured I was just going to stick with that. Especially when I looked at these farming techniques and I saw that they're kind of things that I don't like. They're not decks that we're used to or that I already have built or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to bother with that.
He is one of the hardest people to farm.
Yeah,
I'll say that. Because he does so much. He draws. Not he draws. He thins out his deck super a lot. The Red Ogre returns your stuff. There's a lot going on with him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like I just didn't want to bother. Good on them. Good on these people for figuring it out on how to do it, especially given that it's kind of a harder thing to farm. And then, if you're not getting lucky with the drops, then maybe you have to switch to a farming technique as well, and so you can find them there.
Yep. All right. So there's a limited time upgraded Prismatics live at the card trader. So you could get Prismatics like Union Attack or anything for farming like the Legacy of Yatagarasu or making things glossy as well.
Yeah, so there's normally a few things that you can do this with, and now they're adding a couple others that are not part of that normal pool. The thing to note is that these also cost gems to do. So you probably won't want to go too hard at it, but if you like blinging out your collection, or like we said, the farming ones are maybe worth it, just kind of good choices for making your farms a little bit more successful in the future. There's also the Kaiba Bling ability, so there's a slight gameplay reason why you might want to do any of those. So there's kind of some stuff to consider there, but just keep in mind that it costs the gems, which are very valuable, whereas like the jewels are not.
I did find out that I was running out of rare stones or whatever, or gems.
Oh yeah, were you going too hard at the trader?
I think I was glossying too much. I ran out, or I didn't run out. I was at 2,000, and I decided to stop. So.
Yeah. Well, when was the last time you mass converted, though? I bet you have a bunch there.
It is true.
Yeah.
I think the Zane event or something. I forget.
I haven't done it in forever. I'm kind of concerned that when I do, it's
just going to
crash my game. Yeah.
Right. It takes forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Card Trader has also been updated with a bunch of card flipper cards. These are Aurora Wing, Meiku, Master of Barriers, and Shield Spear. All these cards are super old. Shield Spear gave us a good laugh at one time. That's all I gotta say about these cards.
Yeah, Shield Spear is actually still decent.
It's been replaced with Spike Shield, though, right?
Oh, yeah. My bad. I was thinking of Spike Shield. Never mind.
They look the same.
Yeah, they do. And so, I guess probably considering that none of these are super exciting, since I thought it was the other thing. So, yeah, I guess you're.
I was a bit confused there. Yeah, what you wrote. Yeah.
Yep, that's my bad. So anyway, based on that, none of these are super competitive. Maybe if you are a newer player or you just want to fill out your collection, then you'll get them. But otherwise, nothing too notable there.
We are going to talk about meta shifts. Duel Links meta is talking about, they updated their tier list, and they have included some of the newer decks to look out for, which are Boojins and Dragoonides. And, yeah. Yeah,
I've seen a decent amount of people doing pretty well with Dragoonides. I think our friend Lazarus got King of Games with it, I believe. And then I joined a Facebook group a little while ago of like North America Duel Links players or whatever, and a decent number of people were talking about using it there, talking about how the list works. I faced it once or twice on my ladder climb. It seems like there's a little bit more there than I initially realized when we were reviewing the set. It has a lot of OTK potential because it could pretty easily get out the Synchro Summon guy who doubles his stats, and then you just kind of you use that. You clear some back row stuff. You clear some even defenders using the Drag Unity cards, and then you double your attack, and that's already 38. So if you have any other buffs or any other attackers or anything, then you have an OTK there. So it seems like there's a lot of potential for the deck. It doesn't have as much room for like defensive and tech cards as like Masked Heroes does. So I think in terms of similar gameplay, it might be the weaker deck, but it's still very powerful, and on its own, just like from what the deck does, it has a lot of the effects that you might want to use those slots for in Masked Heroes anyway. Like it clears your back row, it clears the blockers and stuff, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think when I was, failing at King of Games, I saw that deck a lot. But then I haven't seen it because I've played less. I don't know if it's because it tapered off because of the surprise factor, or it's because I'm playing less. I can't tell if it's risen or declined in popularity.
Yeah, I only faced it twice in my entire King of Games climb, but that was like for the most part right after the box came out. So I'm not sure. I can't tell if it's rising or declining either. But it's definitely on the Duel Links Meta watch list. And that feels appropriate to me. It seems like a deck that has a lot of potential and that perhaps people haven't quite figured out how to build it yet.
I think one thing we could do is check out the popular cards and see where these cards are in the popular cards list.
Yeah, I
can't do it right now because I'm auto-dueling Bastion right now. So.
Okay, that's fair. I just wrapped up one, so let's see.
Banish Control.
Yes, yeah, the Banished Control. I've seen a lot of that too, both in the tournaments like we were talking about earlier, and then also just kind of in just playing and on the ladder and whatnot. Have you faced any of it?
I've seen zero, so it's a new concept to me.
Okay, new concept to you. Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things that just we have a lot of tools for this type of control deck. And then so it just seems like when the meta is right for it, it'll kind of come in and come out of the meta depending on what is available. And I guess recently there was some sort of shift, I don't know exactly what it was, that made them think that it was kind of viable again, and it was a good call. I've seen people posting that they're using it with decent success in the KC Cup. Like I said, faced it a couple times. We've seen it in the tournaments, so... just kind of play your strong guys, your strong control guys. I mean, play maybe your Amazoness, play some strong traps, and kind of control the board until your opponent wants to concede. Great deck.
Reminds me of the Temple Burn when that came out. Or not Temple Burn, there was some control deck, Endless Trap Hell, like wait till you deck out or something deck.
Yeah, yes, very much like that. Incredibly annoying deck.
Boojins, I've definitely faced Boojins. As mentioned before, the one card Bujinji Crane has made them into a contender, and they were always an under the radar type deck that people liked. As mentioned, I got the dual level 20 and one Kaiba Cup just by playing the old version of Boojins, and the Crane has done a lot. The thing is, though, you can see the Crane often, like unless it starts in their opening hand, they sometimes tutor it, and then you know it's in their hand, so you could kind of play around that, but it's always a card that's stuck in their hand. They do a lot of graveyard stuff, so Sealed Tombs could be useful against a deck like that, but it's a whole array to play against them, you just basically check their graveyard every turn, see what's in the graveyard, play around what you can.
Yeah, I faced it also once or twice. It felt like a deck where it could kind of sneak up on people, but if you actually were paying attention, then it didn't seem super strong because you could just play around what they were doing. You can econ their one guy so he can't be buffed and double or kill you, or it only doubles for one combat thing. So if you have multiple attackers, if your guys are big enough, like my Blue Eyes guys tended to be, you can attack in with one and pretty much just sacrifice it so that he has to use the crane, and you're like, okay, that's fine. I take a little bit of damage, but I don't really care. I'm going to reanimate that guy anyway, or I'm just going to attack for lethal with my other guys anyway. So, it's not... It felt like an okay deck, but I don't think it's as good as some of the other stuff. I'm not as excited about it, but it is kind of a newcomer, and like we saw in that Duel Links meta, it just like bursted onto the scene. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, they were a grass deck, I think, when I played them. So there were a ton of tools, especially the turtle, which prevents a target, and then there's another card, the hare, which prevents it from being destroyed. I might have mixed up what they do, but this shift to the crane has made them not a grass deck, and I have seen a needlebug nest, but I saw the needlebug nest player mill their own cranes, so there was a bit of unclear deck building that sabotaged that guy's.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how you want to build it, but it seems like tutoring out the crane's a good one. Before we move on, by the way, I looked it up in the popular cards. Drag Unity is at the very bottom of the popular cards, but it's on the list. So you've got the Vajrayana, which is the really important synchro, and then the Drag Unity Aklis, which is the rare, the 2-star, that's kind of like the engine for controlling and summoning stuff. That card's super good in the deck. Both of those are at the very bottom of the popular list, right after the Silent Magician cards, and then Vampires, and then some of the Masked Heroes, and then Blue Eyes. You can just see the popular decks. Masked Heroes again after Blue Eyes. So Masked Heroes and Blue Eyes are kind of mixed as the two most popular.
Cool. Glad Beasts. I frankly haven't faced too many of them.
Yeah, this is yet another one where I faced kind of just one or two. The vast majority of my games in my King of Games climb were either Arcana mirror matches or Masked Heroes matches. So all these other decks, I only faced a handful at max. A little more than that for Vampires, but these new lesser, meta guys, just one or two games. Glad Beast, it seems okay, but the Duel Links meta list actually untiered them, so they're no longer on the Duel Links meta list. They were there for like a week or whatever. Like we talked about when we were looking at the deck list, the brand new Glad Beasts don't seem to have helped, but the second most recent ones were pretty decent, and it just gets to run a lot of really solid control cards to just kind of control and disrupt the game. So interested. I don't know what its matchups are like. It's interesting to see if it's good or bad in a particular meta. What is causing this shift for it to go from being meta relevant again, at least in their eyes, to no longer meta relevant? It seemed to me like in my matches it was kind of just heavily reliant on how much of their back row I could mess up, and if I can mess up their whole back row, then I win. And if I can't, then they have their engine, and then we have a really good game on us. So,
I also think that general back row is just really good right now, and they have to rely on attacking into things. And if you're hitting into Widespread Ruin, you're hitting into Paleozoic Canadian, you're hitting into Drowning Mirror Force, there's just too many options, and they would need something like the Anti-Magic Arrows or the Hey Trunade to even pull it off, I feel.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think of. The one difference might be that we now have Sakuretsu armor. So now we have Widespread Ruin, Sakuretsu armor.
Too many, yeah.
Yeah, all those other ones that we were talking about. And so now it's harder for them to do their thing. They were doing well before when there was kind of a medium amount of really strong back row stuff because they took good advantage of that really strong back row stuff. But now they're a little bit weaker because they are also hurt by it. So once there's even more back row, then it's kind of gotten to the point where they can no longer abuse it better than anyone else. Now it is being used against them, and so they're not quite as good anymore. So
They should just run Jinzo. Like I lost the game this morning because they just played Jinzo. I was like, oh, that's the game.
Yeah, but then I don't know. Then you can't really do your own stuff as well. I guess you have to run half shuts and econs and sphere Karibos. I guess you could do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Community Spotlight. We have 2 decks from Bulldog DX82. There's an all shiny skill farming deck and a Montage Dragon quick farm deck. Both of these are good for skill farming at the gate.
Yeah, so shout out to Bulldog for doing cool stuff. We linked both of them. The shiny one it's not quite all shiny, but it's pretty shiny. Lots of
shiny and glossy.
And shinies. And it's just kind of like a blue eyes thing. Like you said, it's for skill farming, so you don't need any particular skill for it. You can just kind of use whatever you want or whoever you want to level or whatever cards you want, and it's kind of just a generically good, valuable farming deck. Nothing too crazy here, pretty much what you would expect to see. Lots of things we normally do. The game plan here is to just get out a couple blue eyes and then play Vassal, Union Attack, and Anti-Magic Arrows. But it was cool, lots of shiny, and he got retweeted by Konami, so that's always fun for that one. The other one, the Montage Dragon one, is one that we retweeted during the week, and I just wanted to make sure I highlight on the show for people who didn't see it. I've been using it. It works pretty well. You get Montage Dragon from Bastion when you get him to level 30, and it is a level 8 dragon with, I think, question mark stats or 0 stats, but basically, actually that might not even be right. Doesn't matter. He gets a big buff when you special summon him by discarding 3 cards, and then he gets a buff based on the level of the cards that you discarded. So basically your deck is just Montage Dragon, Draw Sense Earth, and then all of your biggest monsters that go into your normal deck. You don't care about the extra deck monsters. And what you do is you go to like probably a level 30, because the level 40 guys can sometimes kill you in one turn, but the level 30 guys almost never can. You can maybe go to double rewards or triple rewards. I think double is more efficient. And then you let them go, and they will attack you, and then you draw Sense Earth. You have to make sure that your only Earth monster is the Montage Dragon. And then you special summon it. It has like 9,000 or more attack. You attack into whatever they attacked you with. You win in like 2 turns. And even though it's not the most efficient in terms of rewards, you only get like 3 or 4 rewards per game. So that's why you have to do the double or triple rewards. But it's super fast. So if you're like me, you have a bunch of these keys that you're like never using. So this is an efficient way in terms of your time, even though it's less efficient in terms of your keys, to just use up a bunch of your keys to get something valuable out of it. You can still get some gems, you can get some skills on stuff as long as you're using a character who has the Draw Sense Earth. And so I really liked it. I thought it was worth highlighting. I've been using it. I used it a little bit this week before stuff got rough, and like I said, I didn't really have a ton of time to play. And I thought it was cool stuff, so thanks for that, Bulldog.
And just like we were talking before the show, I'm pretty sure Montage Dragon's from Trudge. Now that you describe what it does.
Oh, yeah? Did I really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yep, yeah, you're definitely right.
It was like that card that could be broken at some point.
Yeah. 100% Trudge. I don't know why I said Bastion. And then I don't know why I was convinced it was Bastion. Yeah.
Because he's Inglorious this week.
It's because he's an Inglorious Bastion. Definitely Trudge is level 30.
All right. So the remaining upcoming news, the Kaiba Cup's still going on to get to level 20 and play 3 games every day. Duel-a-thon's coming. We don't know what the rewards are. Hopefully we get a new card out of it. Special character, One Future King. Still, we don't know who this is. I'm sure some people have speculated. We do not know who it is. We do know that Tristan is coming early December, so we can finally obtain him and get all his stuff.
Sweet.
All right, that is it for us today. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck in the Kaiba Cup or Ranked or whatever you do in Duel Links. Listen and subscribe. Just search the Duel Assessment. We're everywhere. We're on Spotify, so handy stuff.
Everywhere.
everywhere, literally. Check out the Podcast Immortal website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a Facebook page if you go there, facebook.com/theduelassessment. If you want to help support our work, patreon.com/theduel_assessment. Email us, theduelassessment@gmail.com, or you find us on Twitter, duel_assessment. Me at Green Ranger CCG, Deck Tech at HS Deck Tech.
Yep. Love to hear from you guys there, and you can send us cool stuff we could talk about on the show, or we could just chat. Also fun.
Yep. All right. Thanks for listening. See you later.
Bye.